Greetings, Dr. Beckett. Welcome to the Quantum Leap Podcast. Here.
You are listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast. This is episode 41, Runaway. You are listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast. This is episode 41, Runaway. You are listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast. This is episode 41, Runaway. Runaway.
You pig! Ow! What are you doing? Shut up, back!
Runaway.
You pig! Ow!
Runaway.
You pig! Ow! What are you doing? Shut up back there!
I'm a kid.
You're a twerp!
Ow! I said shut up! She called me monkey boy. She did. She called me
that's
monkey
her job.
boy.
Hey, you're 13. She's your big sister. That's her job.
13?
Let's see. Your name is Butchie Rickett, and you and your family just left your home in Pahokee, Florida, for a 9,000-mile trip across the country. And when the fireworks go off tonight, your mom, Butchie's mom, runs out on the family. Will they never see or hear from her again? Please don't let it happen to Emma and her family.
How come you decide when and what we do?
Because I'm the dad.
So that makes you boss?
Of course.
Maybe if we all just...
Butchie!
What's going on, Mom?
You wouldn't understand.
Come on, I'm 13.
Yeah, my little man.
Afraid of being alone?
I mean, I'm already by myself most of the day. It's just not like I thought it would be. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't love you and Alex and Daddy. Just that I want something more. Yeah, my little man.
Afraid of being alone?
I mean, I'm already by myself most of the day. It's just not like I thought it would be. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't love you and Alex and Daddy. Just that I want something more. Just that I want something more. Not like I thought it would be. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't love you and
and I want it. No wedgies, no ear fl-
something more. That I want something more. Want something more. Want something more. Just not like I thought it would be. Now, this doesn't mean that I don't love you. I'm by myself most of the day. It's just you wouldn't understand.
Come on, I'm 13.
Yeah, my little man.
Afraid of being alone?
I mean, I'm already by myself. Yeah, my little man. Man. Man.
Vacation. I mean, getting off topic just a little bit, I know that a lot of Quantum Leap episodes are
Pregler. I'm Allison Pregler.
You're listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast, episode 41, Runaway. And safety.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Quantum Leap Pod. You are listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast, episode 41, Runaway.
Very exciting.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Christopher D. Philippus. Out there have heard.
Richie!
What's going on, Mom?
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Christopher D. Philippus.
I'm Allison Pregler.
And I'm Matt Dale.
Podcast. You guys. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Quantum Leap Podcast. I'm Christopher D. Philippus.
I'm Allison Pregler.
And I'm Matt Dale.
And we welcome you, one and all, to this sort of new iteration of the Quantum Leap Podcast. You guys out there have heard Allison and Matt and myself on the podcast before, just last month in the Mirror Image special. I think that Albie liked it, right, guys? Because he invited us to come back and pinch hit again and tackle the Season 3 episode, Runaway.
Yeah, very exciting.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
And not only are we going to be talking about Runaway, but we're going to be bringing you an interview with Tom McTeague. Now, Tom wasn't in Runaway, but he did play Blake's toadying yes man Calloway in the previous episode, A Little Miracle. That's the Christmas episode that apparently keeps on giving because we've done, like 3 shows about it already? Anyway,
our initial impressions are probably going to be very similar. I think it is a suitable episode. It is not every one of them is gonna knock it out of the park. There's not really any episode that I dislike, so I enjoyed it, but it's sort of middle of the road.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that. I think it's an average episode with 3 really standout moments, and hopefully I'll come on to what I think those standout moments are later on. But yeah, it's watchable.
High praise indeed.
Oh dear.
I just gotta clarify that I have nice points to say about it, so saying that it's middle of the road is not me saying that it is a bad episode.
No, I think I agree with you there as well, and I think you're right, Allison. We did have very similar ideas on this episode because coming at it, especially when I was just remembering it before even rewatching it, I don't think I had seen this episode.
Really standout moments, and hopefully I'll come on to what I think those standout moments are later on. But yeah, it's watchable.
High praise indeed.
Oh dear. I think it's an.
Oh, there are a lot of things I want to get into, but before we do that, why don't we hear the episode recap? Why don't we hear the episode recap?
Season 3, Episode 11.
Why don't we hear the episode recap?
Season 3, Episode 11.
Okay, well.
Again. Satisfied with the new family dynamic, Sam leaps.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Okay, well, thank you for that, Zoe. That was a great episode recap written by Hayden. So let's have at it, guys. I mean, there are a lot of really key themes in this episode, and I'd say the chief one would have to be women's liberation, would it not?
Women's lib, for sure, yeah.
I was especially curious, Allison, to get your take on this, because I have some definite ideas about the way they portrayed Emma's struggle in this episode, but I really think it we will. All right. So now that we have said what we had to say, we're going to throw it to a break. And when we come back, we will be hearing from Mr. Tom McTeague. Stay tuned, everybody. Okay, everyone, we're back. And guess what, guys? You know what time it is? Time to speak to Mr. Tom McTeague.
All right, I'm really
Go with thumbs up, definitely. All right. So now that we have said what we had to say, we're going to throw it to a break. And when we come back, that's one of the things that the show is. It's a hallmark of the show, and I think that they really nailed it with this one. So, I'm going to go with
for sure.
That's one of the things that the show is. It's a hallmark of the show.
For sure.
That's one of the things that the show is. It's a hallmark of the show, and I think that they really nailed it with this one. So, I'm going to go with thumbs up, definitely. All right. So now that we have said what we had to say, we're going to throw it to a break. I'm going to go with thumbs up, definitely. All right. So now that we have said what we had to say, we're going to throw it to a break. And when we come back, we will be hearing from Mr. Tom McTeague. Stay tuned, everybody. We're going to throw it to a break, and when we come back, we will be hearing from Mr. Tom McTeague. Stay tuned, everybody.
Barren Space with audio production.
Whether you are just starting out.
Tuned, everybody.
Barren Space with audio production. Barren Space, professional audio production.
Whether you are just starting out, a seasoned professional, or anywhere in between, we can help you sound your best.
Have looked at quantum. I know actors that have looked at Quantum Leap and just said it's an act. I know actors that have looked at Quantum Leap and just said it's an actor's dream because you pick up a script and you can be anybody.
Consultation. Email us at barrenspace@gmail.com or go to barrenspace.com/production for more details.
That have looked at Quantum Leap and just said it's an actor's dream because I know actors that have looked at Quantum Leap and just said it's an actor's dream because you pick up a script. I know actors that have looked at Quantum Leap and just said it's an actor's dream because you pick up a script and you can be anybody in a given week.
It's always different, but you just have to keep going, and it helps to be in shape, I think. But you just have to keep going.
This is Ann Walker, and you're
going, and it helps to be in shape, I think.
This is Ann Walker, and you're listening to the Quantum Leap podcast.
You just have to keep going, and it helps to be in shape, I think.
This is Ann Walker, and you're listening to the Quantum Leap podcast.
Appreciate it.
This is Ann Walker, and you're listening to the Quantum Leap Podcast.
Okay, everyone, we're back. And guess what, guys? You know what time it is? Time to speak to Mr. Tom McTeague.
All right, I'm really excited to hear this interview because I'm familiar with Tom McTeague from Baywatch. He was a main character for a season, and it's something I talk about on my own show. So I'm looking forward to listening to it, and hope everyone else enjoys.
All right, Allison, so there you have it.
Hope everyone else enjoys.
It is now. Now, aside from the story that you told, can you relate instances where you have seen
And hope everyone else enjoys. I'm looking forward to listening to it, and hope everyone else enjoys.
All right, Allison, so there you have it. I mean, your Baywatch wish was granted. He did. All right, Allison, so there you have it. I mean, your Baywatch wish was granted. He did talk about his time on Baywatch. I mean, all right, Allison, so there you have it. I mean, your Baywatch wish was granted. He did talk about his time on Baywatch. I mean, it was pretty fun to talk to him about that. Very chill guy, as you guys heard in the interview, and just a very wry sense of humor. I had a good time talking to him. So thank you very much, Tom, for enlightening us not only with your time on Quantum Leap, but giving Allison what she wanted as well.
That's so great.
All right, so we've heard from Tom McTeague. So now it's time for Hayden's segment, Quantum Deep.
Well, that was some great feedback. Lovely to hear what
It's time for Hayden's segment, Quantum Deep. Segment, Quantum Deep.
She's a little runaway, and now she's in Quantum Deep.
And you buy. They walk alike, talk alike, abruptly.
Well, that was some great. Well, that was some great feedback. Lovely to hear what everyone had to say about the last show. But the future's just around the corner. So what are we looking at for the next episode? Well, that was some great feedback. Lovely to hear what everyone had to say about the last show. But the future... Yeah, I mean, there doesn't seem to be that...
Still own the rights, but Don has a hand in it. And Matt, would you know about this? Is this something you researched for Beyond the Mirror Image?
Yeah, I mean, there doesn't seem to be that much concrete evidence, but that makes absolute sense. I hadn't heard that comment that you've just relayed from the... That could explain the delays.
That's my...
Explain the delays.
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that there's more than one party involved and just everyone has to come to an agreement.
And that's why I think it was maybe...
That the studio want one thing, the original creator wants something else. That could explain the delays.
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that there's more than one party involved and just everyone has to come to an agreement.
Yeah, and that's why what do you guys think?
I think for sure. Things to cover and go over.
Yeah, I'm with something in the next few years.
Without want to see a reboot?
My thoughts are, or at least I'll give it a chance.
Yeah, I think, and it could certainly be very good, but I think fans might take a little while to warm to it.
Yeah, I kind of
Nearly identical Becky's and you buy. They walk alike, talk alike, abruptly leave the show alike. You could lose your mind when Becky's ain't two of a kind. could lose your mind when Becky's.
No problem is too difficult to solve. No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember to ask ourselves the right. No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember to ask ourselves the right questions. And speaking of questions, no problem is too difficult. No problem is too difficult. No problem is too difficult to solve. No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember to solve, as long as we remember to ask ourselves.
I heard Don Belisario on stage at the. Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback. All right, listen, before we get into this feedback, spoiler alert. Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback. All right, listen.
We remember to ask ourselves.
Okay, everyone,
the right
now
questions.
it is time for. Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback. Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback.
No problem is.
Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember.
Feedback. All right.
No problem.
Feedback. All right. Feedback. Time for feedback.
No problem.
Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember to ask.
The future! The future! The future!
All right, listen, before we get into this feedback. All right, listen, before we get into this feedback, spoiler alert. A lot of these responses have to do with our last show about the lost ending of Mirror Image, and we will be discussing the ending of the series as a response to these questions. So just if you don't know the ending and you don't want to be spoiled, fast forward a little bit in the podcast and hit us up on the other side, all right? Now, guys, can you believe it? We have a voicemail. It is a question that we received from Ben in Omaha. So here's what Ben asks.
Hey, Albie and Heather, it's Ben Mysek from Omaha. I had a question. If the Quantum Leap show were to ever be rebooted, could it be, and who would have the rights to own it still? Thanks.
Well, Ben, I hope it's okay that we are not Albie or Heather, but I do have somewhat of an answer. God, it's got to be back in 2009, so that's almost 10 years ago now. I'm getting really old. I heard Don Belisario on stage at the Leap Back Convention 2009. I was there in the audience when he said that NBC still owns the rights, but Don said something like, I want to do a feature, they don't want to do a feature, I don't want to do a TV movie, they want to do a TV movie. So apparently NBC and Universal still own the rights, but Don has a hand in it. And Matt, would you know about this? Is this something you researched for Beyond the Mirror Image?
Yeah, I mean, there doesn't seem to be that much concrete evidence, but that makes absolute sense. That could explain the delays.
Yeah, that's
on the mirror image.
Yeah, I mean, the
image.
Yeah, I mean, there doesn't seem to be that much concrete evidence, but that makes absolute sense. I hadn't heard that comment that you've just relayed from the Leap Back convention, but yeah, that was always my assumption that it's at the end of the day, when it was produced, NBC and Universal were the ones putting the money into it, but Belisarius is bound to have kept back the rights as well. So that also explains why it's taken so long, because when you have creative differences like that, the studio want one thing, the original creator wants something else. That could explain the delays.
Yeah, that's my understanding, is that there's more than one party involved and just everyone has to come to an agreement.
Yeah, and that's why I think it was maybe last month or the month before, on the podcast we brought you some news. It spread around line.
Could explain the delays.
Yeah, that's an agreement.
Yeah, and that's why I think it was maybe last month or the month before, on the podcast we brought you some news. It spread around line, around Facebook, that Don said that he had written a new Quantum Leap feature script. And I was like, yeah, okay, great. He can write everything he wants, but it doesn't mean that they're going to produce it, So until all of the parties can get on board, Ben, it's probably not going to happen. But I can say this, it will happen. I think that's almost inevitable. What do you guys think?
I think for sure. Eventually there will be a remake of it. I don't really see a continuation happening at this point, but I think it's a good idea, and I think it's something that, because it's been so long, we'll have new things to cover and go over.
Yeah, I'm with Alison on this. I mean, it's got to that point now where so much stuff from our youth is being rebooted. It's only a matter of time. The creative differences have to be overcome, but it's the perfect time for it. I think we'll see something in the next few years.
Without creating a big discussion out of it, do you guys want to see a reboot?
My thoughts are I wouldn't mind seeing a reboot. I really don't think one is necessary. And at that same con, even Scott, he was on stage with Don at the time, and he said, look, even if they do a reboot, Dean and I are not going to be in it. We're too old. They're not going to want us. There might be a cameo thing or something. So the way I would see a reboot go these days would maybe have Scott as like in the pilot, maybe come in once a season, twice a season for sweeps or whatever, just to pass the torch. But it's going to be a completely different paradigm. It's going to be a new leaper, a new observer, using the Quantum Leap sort of IP is the way I see it. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It depends on how they do it. I mean, I'm enjoying Star Trek Discovery as much as it's a visual reboot of the Prime Universe, as much as they say that it's going to lead into the original series. I can't see how it's going to, because it's just so far advanced technologically and visually, but I don't mind because I'm enjoying the characters and I'm enjoying the story. So when it comes down to it, if you're going to reboot Quantum Leap, just do it respectfully. If you're true to the spirit of the show and you respect the characters and give us a good story, I'll be on board. At least I'll give it a chance.
Yeah, I think there will be a lot of reluctance and hesitation from fans at first. I think there will be a lot of fans who'll say, but it's all about the relationship between Scott and Dean. It can't be done with anyone else. But this is all the same stuff that was said about Star Trek The Next Generation. No one said anything without William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy could work. And yeah, that was obviously proven wrong. I could see the same thing happening here. Like you say, Chris, it would end up being with another pairing, and it could certainly be very good, but I think fans might take a little while to warm to it.
Yeah, I kind of share those sentiments. I feel like if they did a new one, I would prefer just to do a hard reboot, just have it be its own thing and try to find their own voice with it, because you can't replicate what was in the original. So just try to make something really good with this concept.
Well, thank you, Ben. You actually sparked some nice discussion here, but we have some more feedback to get to, and we got some good responses on Twitter in response to our Mirror Image Lost Ending special. Allison, would you mind reading the first tweet?
Sure. This first tweet is from Avilos. I'm going to pronounce everything wrong. At Tom Saliva 1978. I do not think the show was canceled while this was filmed and they stopped shooting. As we know, the cancellation was last minute before airing. The episode probably was filmed a month or two before broadcast. There are probably records of the shooting schedule. Are you brave enough to ask Don for a new interview about this? Winky face. I was at the 2009 convention, and he was annoyed when someone asked about the leaked footage of the picture of Al, Beth, and their daughters. Don is our Al the bartender, enigmatic, limited in what he will answer. Well, what do you guys think about this?
I'm brave enough to ask Don. I'll ask Don anything. I don't care. Well, what can he do?
Just make sure you get every question out of him that you want an answer for, just in case. Just in case it's the last time.
There you go. That could be. I mean, I think that Tom or Avilos or whatever you want to call yourself at Tom Saliva 1978, you're probably right. This speaks to, if you remember back to that Mirror Image special, listeners, Susan Deal saying that she thinks that they were either on set shooting the final scene when maybe the news of the cancellation came down, and either they finished filming or they stopped filming, but she was hazy on her recollection. And Matt, you said that, okay, yeah, that makes for a good dramatic story, but it's not very likely. And I think that Tom is sort of backing that up. The episode was probably filmed a month or two before it was broadcast, and they wouldn't cancel it last minute like that.
Yeah, I think it was filmed. Like, I agree with that sentiment, and I would like to know what Donald Belisario would say about this. So, yeah, a new interview would be great.
Yeah, it would be great to know what Don thinks. I mean, we've all got to remember this was a very long time ago. As much as Susan doesn't remember the details, I'm not entirely convinced Don would have any better memory, or Dean, or anyone else that we asked to look that far back. But it would certainly be great to have another opinion.
He would certainly know what was in mind about what they were thinking about doing, at least, even if he didn't remember specific details.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I would have to think that he had some very definite ideas in mind. So, all right, why don't we move on? We also have another tweet. Matt, take it away.
So, Super Chris 1982 tweeted us to say, another great podcast. I loved hearing about the new discovery. Excellent interview with Susan. She was a lovely interview who clearly loved being part of the show. The episode also made me reevaluate if I want the show to return or be rebooted. I want my Quantum Leap to return, but I don't think it ever can. I'm okay knowing Sam is out there putting right what once went wrong. All the best from... and then a picture of the Scottish flag. So I guess that's Scotland giving us a wave. Thanks, Scotland.
I like the typo of Al the best.
Oh, I left that in because I thought, is that intentional? Is he being cheeky?
I just noticed that. I corrected that as I went, but maybe not. Sorry, Super Chris, if that was a joke that I missed.
Well, we got it. We get it, Super Chris. You're talking to your people. So I think it's funny. We have two feedback bits that are concerned with reboots. It's just Reboot Mania is still alive and well, you know?
But yeah, I do find that interesting that that both of them are talking about reboots, I guess because of the content that we were talking about. But it looks like, there is an audience for it. So if something like Netflix, for instance, wanted to pick this up and do it outside of the network, I think that's something that would have an audience.
Oh, by all means. And I just want to address one line that Super Chris puts in, and I hear this a lot in fandom. He says, I want my Quantum Leap to return, but I don't think it ever can. And it's wonderful that we as fans take ownership of properties, and we feel like what it was is what it should always be. Like to me, the
Out of here. There we go, boy.
All right, listen, before we get into this feedback, spoiler alert. A lot of these responses have to do with our last... I understand. like to me, the original series.
So if something like Netflix, for
to me, the...
So if something like Netflix, for instance, wanted to pick this up and do it outside of the network.
One line that Super Chris puts in, and I hear this a lot in fandom. He says, I want my Quantum Leap to return, but I don't think it ever can. And it's wonderful that we as fans take ownership of properties, and we feel like what it was is what it should always be. Like to me, the original series is my Star Trek. But it doesn't preclude me liking other takes on Star Trek. So I would just say to get rid of that fanboy angst and to try to keep an open mind, because nobody can ever take your Quantum Leap away from you. It's there. It exists. All, 98 episodes or whatever are sacrosanct. They're on every kind of media you can figure out, and you will always be able to access them and enjoy them for what they are. Don't expect a reboot to live up to some kind of ideal like that, because you will invariably be disappointed. Just take it for what it is and try to run with it.
Chris, I'm going to quote you next time I'm talking to Doctor Who fans. That was well said.
You would think Doctor Who fans would be the most malleable fans on the planet. There's a new Doctor every 5 minutes.
Doctor Who is a good example of a show reinventing and rebooting itself, and can be a continuation but be its own thing. I mean, that's really what it was when, in 2005 when it came back, and they were successful with it.
Yeah, so there you go. It's a perfect example. And to know that Whovians are now getting that way about like Chris Eccleston and Matt Tennant, or Matt Smith, David Tennant, right? I knew I'd screw that up, but and they are the reboot. Isn't that funny? So.
Not a true Doctor Who fan. You messed it up.
You know what? I liked Eccleston the best. He was my doctor. So there.
Yeah, it's always the first one that people see, but that doesn't mean that they can't come up with fresh new ideas and take the concept somewhere else.
Yeah. And that's not to say that I didn't like Matt Smith's take or David Tennant's take, or even to an extent Capaldi's take. I think that, honestly, the Doctor lives and dies by the companions. So I'm more interested in the companions than the Doctor anyway. But we could have a whole other podcast. Are there Doctor Who podcasts? Maybe we should invent one.
Are there Doctor Who? Of course there's Doctor Who podcasts.
Bound to be Doctor Who podcasts.
What are you talking about, man?
You mean I didn't just discover this? Damn.
It's like saying, is there a Star Trek podcast? What are you talking about?
Man, that's my other big idea. Those millions are flying out the window. All right. All right. Anyway, there are many ways that you can contact us here at the Quantum Leap Podcast. When you're done listening to Doctor Who and you're done listening to Star Trek, listen to us and let us know what you think about our show. You can contact us by telephone at 707-847-6682. You can get us by email at quantumleappodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/quantumleappodcast. And you can hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Quantum Leap Pod. You can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Quantum Leap Podcast. So find all those ways to reach us in whatever way suits you best. And remember, we may use your response on an upcoming episode of the Quantum Leap Podcast. But wait, there's more. Because when you're done listening to this, you might not know this, but Matt and Allison are very accomplished individuals, and they have stuff of their own that you can check out. So, Allison, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you online?
Oh, thank you, man. You can find me at youtube.com/movie nights the series. That's where I do my YouTube videos covering B movies or So Bad It's Good movies, television, all sorts of different mishmash. You can find me on Twitter at obscurus_lupa, or you can just look up my name, Allison Pregler, and that sort of leads to all my other social media stuff. So that's about it for me. What about you, Matt?
You're best finding me at tmebooks.uk, and that's where you can buy a huge 800-page shrine to Quantum Leap, full of all kinds of nerdy, geeky facts that we love on this show.
That's an excellent book. I love it, and I love using it as a reference.
Oh, thank you. That's how we met.
There's also a pretty nifty forward, from what I understand. So.
Hey! If we're throwing in plugs for people's books, you guys should check out Chris's book, his Quantum Leap novel, Foreknowledge. That was really good.
Available now from all good secondhand bookstores.
I'm sure you've never talked about it on the show before.
Never. Me name-dropping my book and the fact that I'm a quantum... I never do that. You can find Foreknowledge on Amazon all over the place used. I mean, it's long out of print, but I've seen copies go from everywhere from, 80 cents to $135, just depending on whatever matrix is in place on the book site of your choice.
And you're seeing all the money from it, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. Boatloads. Yeah, no, I don't see any of that, people. It was a writer-for-hire deal, and I was happy to do it because I just love Quantum Leap so much. So, but you can find me online outside of my book. I have a website called deflipside.com, deflipside.com. There you can find segments of a radio show that I do here locally on Long Island. It's all about geeky stuff and nerdy stuff, and you can also find links to the Quantum Leap podcast and all the other podcasts I'm involved in, and also the Quantum Leap radio sightings, which is a regular feature here on the Quantum Leap podcast. So please check that out. It's deflipside.com, deflipside.com. All right, what's next?
Thank you for your letter. And remember to tune in tomorrow when Captain Galaxy
and Future Boy
blast off for another adventure in time.
Well, that was some great feedback. Lovely to hear what everyone had to say about the last show. But the future's just around the corner. So what are we looking at for the next episode?
Please check that out. It's deflipside.com, deflipside.com. All right, what's next? side.com. side.com.
Thank you for your letter. And remember to tune in tomorrow when Captain Galaxy
and Future Boy
blast off for another adventure in time.
de.com.
Thank you for your letter. And remember,
ide.com.
Thank you for your letter. And remember to
de.com.
Thank you for your letter. And remember to tune in tomorrow when Captain Galaxy
and
tomorrow
side.com.
Thank you for your letter. And remember to tune in tomorrow when Captain Galaxy
and Future Boy
blast off for another adventure in time. Until then,
what everyone had to say about the last show, but
another adventure in time. Until then, I'll see you in the future.
Well, that was some great feedback. Lovely to hear what everyone had to say about the last show, but well, that was some great.
I'll see you in the future.
Well, Well, that was some great feedback. Lovely to hear what everyone had to say about the last show. But the future's just around the corner. So what are we looking at for the next episode?
8.5 months. All right, I think that works. What do you think?
I thought you were going to say more.
Leave it unedited like that. Just pause 8.5 months.
Well, that's what I think.
That was the most awful pause. That was a pregnant pause, literally.
Well, we're... Oh my god.
Awful pause. That was a pregnant pause, literally.
Well, we're... Are we... Well, we're... Oh my god, I just got... Pregnant pause.
Well, that's what I think.
That was the most awful pause. That was a pregnant pause. Pause. That was a pregnant pause, literally.
Well, we're...
Most awful pause. That was a pregnant pause, literally.
Well, we're... Oh my god, I just...
we're so inept.
Pregnant pause. Well, we're...
Thank you for getting that.
Can you believe I just got that?
Oh, you didn't get... Looks like you weren't expecting it.
Oh
no.
And that's the cut into the 8.5 months montage. Oh my god.
All right, I am really excited to...
Popular demand. Quantum Leap.
Fun's montage. Oh my god.
By popular demand. Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap leaps back to Wednesday nights and gives birth to the biggest leap ever.
All right.
Oh my god.
By popular demand. Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap.
That's the cut into the 8.5 months montage. Oh my god.
By popular demand. Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap leaps back to... By popular demand. Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap.
Oh my god.
By popular demand. Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap leaps back. By popular demand. Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap leaps back to Wednesday nights and gives birth to the biggest leap ever.
Oh, God. I'm pregnant. It's impossible. What's happening? It's highly irregular.
It's Quantum Leap on its new night, 9 to 10, 9 Central on NBC.
All right, I am really excited to be watching 8.5 months. It's one of my favorite episodes, so looking forward to next time.
It's a real classic.
And for me, it holds a personal history because it is the first episode of Quantum Leap I ever saw. And it's what got me into the... Yeah, so we'll talk about that next time, everybody. Until then, I have been Christopher DeFilippis.
I'm Allison Pregler.
And I'm Matt Dale.
And we'll see you next time, everyone. Take care. Take care.
Know that it's one of those television...
All right, Allison, so there you have it. I mean, your Baywatch wish was granted. He did talk about time for Hayden's segment, Quantum Deep.
Oh, she's a little rough.
Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember to ask ourselves the right questions. And speaking of questions,
News of the script for the Quantum Leap movie having been completed has certainly raised a lot of questions. It has also raised hope. The biggest question I want answered, though, is if Roseanne gets a reboot after 20 plus years, then just when will Quantum Leap get theirs?
Meet Lacey, the one you used to see from 88 to 93. But Sarah came and took her place because she had a similar face. That's life on TV. But they're Becky's, nearly identical Becky's all the way. One pair of matching actors, but only one part to play. Where Sarah loved that dopey Mark and wound up in a trailer park. Our Lacey shouts and Lacey squeals. She wants a house that's not on wheels. What a crazy pair. Still they're Becky's, nearly identical Becky's, and you find they walk alike, talk alike, abruptly leave the show alike. You could lose your mind when Becky's ain't two of a kind.
I'm Christopher D. Philippus, and it's time once again for the Quantum Leap Radio.
Ain't two of a kind.
I'm Christopher D. Philippus, and it's time once again for the Quantum Leap Radio sightings, where I tell you about all of the vintage radios that appear on Quantum Leap. And we've arrived at Runaway. And while there's a ton of music in this episode, there are no radios, unless you count the car radio, which we don't. So that means a trip to the archives. So buckle up, because we're heading for Brooklyn. And call you Nona, because it's time for a Quantum Leap Radio sightings first. Or maybe a Quantum Leap Radio sighting second. A second first? I don't know. But anyway, we're up to the episode Double Identity. And there is a radio in Double Identity, and it's notable for being the first radio on the show to have made a second appearance. It is none other than the 1952 RCA 3 RF91 Woodland radio that appeared in the previous episode, How the Test Was Won. Now, you can see the Woodland in Don Gino's attic when Sam is talking to Al. He's dressed up as Frankie the Hitman with his pink shirt and his bow tie and his cummerbund. And you can also see it again in the same attic when Sam is wrestling the gun away from Don Gino. Now, you might remember, as I told you last time, that the Woodland is a neat little set. It's very distinctive. And it's all about the tuning dial. It's got this giant round tuning dial in the front center of the speaker grill with these little appliques that come off the sides that make it look like an airplane coming right at you. And it's what brings this radio over the top, because otherwise it's just another nondescript brown Bakelite box. But it's got that neat deco flair, and it's instantly recognizable the second you see it on screen. And like I said, it was the second time we saw it on screen in Quantum Leap. It originally appeared in How the Test Was Won in Tess's living room, right over the top of the couch when Tess was passed out and Sam was trying to revive her. And bear with me, because I have a theory here. How the Test Was Won took place in 1956, and Double Identity took place in 1965. So in my headcanon, this is the same radio. I mean, it was definitely the same prop, but in universe, I'm going to say it's the same radio, and here's how I reconcile that. Tessa's ranch got very successful after she married the right guy, and Sam leapt out, and Buddy Holly went on to sing Peggy Sue. And once she got a little bit of bucks and she became like a cattle baron and a ranch baron, Tess decided to redecorate, and she got rid of all the crappy radios that were strewn all about her house in favor of like a new 60s hi-fi set. And because of that, that radio went on the road. It went to a thrift shop, and then somebody bought it, and then they had it in their apartment for a while, and then somebody else bought it, and they gave it to their son who had it in their bedroom. Then that kid got rid of it, but the person who got it next, they got this big break. They got this huge job offer in New York, and they took what they had with them, everything they loved, probably their 1960s version of whatever a futon was back then, their crummy little RCA Woodland radio, put it all in the back of a moving van, and went on out to New York to make their name in the world. And as soon as the truck crossed into the borough, Primo and Segundo came and hijacked the truck and they sold all the stuff out of the back, but they couldn't get rid of this radio, so it wound up in the Don's attic because we're Italian and we're gangsters and that's what we do, we rob people. Oh, hey. But anyway, whether or not that story fits into your headcanon, it's still nice to see this neat little radio make another appearance on Quantum Leap. And since The Woodland came out in 1952, there's absolutely no anachronism with us finding it nestled away in a corner of Don Gino's attic in 1965. Now, if you want to see The Woodland in all of its glory and every other radio that has appeared on Quantum Leap up until this episode, you can check them out on my website at deflipside.com. That's DEFLIPSIDE.com. Just log on and look for the Quantum Leap radio sightings link. Until next time, paisans, this is your Quantum Leap radio guru, signing out.
Hayden, what do you think of Runaway?
Signing out.
Hayden, what do you think of Runaway?
Not anywhere near my favorite, actually. I think if I was voting for the Quantum Leap Idol, this would end up in the bottom three. So, yeah, it's not to say that it's a bad episode. It's just I really have to suspend my disbelief with this one. I really just cannot believe that the project at this stage in the series.
You're on the other side.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what happened. That makes sense. To me, I was telling myself that Al just assumed that she had run off because of. My feeling is there's room
to them as well.
Of course, yeah.
Want anything? Just get into contact with us.
Absolutely, we're here with open
for you, and yeah, if you want any hurt feelings, but everyone who's making a Quantum Leap podcast, yeah. All right, well, that's probably it from me. I managed to all over the episode, which is what we wanted, and but having said that, though, 8.5 months is one. To all over the episode, which is what we wanted, and to all over the. I managed to all over the episode, which is what we wanted, and but having said that, though, 8.5 months is one of my favorites. I reckon it's one of the best ones that they ever made. So
that's a really good one coming up, and I'm sure it will inspire
of discussion coming up.
Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback.
Lot of
all over the episode, which. Lots and lots of discussion coming up.
Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember to ask ourselves the right questions. And speaking of questions, let's take a look at today's space mail before we time leap out of here. Here we go, boy.
And lots of discussion coming up.
Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback.
As long as we remember to ask ourselves the right questions. And speaking of questions, let's take a look at today's space mail before we time leap out of here. Here we go, boy.
Okay, everyone, now it is time.
About 100 times during it. So lots and lots of discussion coming up.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember to ask ourselves the right questions. And speaking of questions, let's take a look at today's space mail before we time leap out of here. Here we go, boy.
Up.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember to.
Lots of discussion coming up.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember.
Of discussion coming up.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we.
Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback. All right, listen, before we get into this feedback,
Lots and lots of discussion coming up.
No problem.
Lots and lots of discussion coming up.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember to ask ourselves the right questions. And speaking of questions, let's take a look at today's space.
Discussion coming up.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as
coming up.
no problem is
Lots and lots of discussion coming up.
no problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember.
Discussion coming up.
No problem is too difficult to solve as long as we remember to ask ourselves the right questions. And speaking of questions,
Okay, everyone, now it is time for feedback. All right, listen, before we get into this feedback, spoiler alert, a lot of these responses have to do with our
vision, all sorts of different mishmash. You can find me on Twitter at obscurus_lupa. Or you
The future!
Well, that was some great feedback. Lovely to hear what everyone had to say about the last show. But the future's just round.
I'm Alison Pregler.
And I'm Matt Dale.
And we'll see you next time, everyone. Take care. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Quantum Leap podcast, hosted by Allison, Matt, and Chris. With voice talent and
Then I have been Christopher DeFilippis.
I'm Alison Pregler.
And I'm Matt Dale.
And we'll see you next time, everyone. Take care.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Quantum Leap podcast, hosted by Allison, Matt, and Chris. With voice talent and contributions from Zoe Dean and Hayden McQueenie. Visit us at quantumleappodcast.com. To support the show, please go to patreon.com/quantumleappodcast. The Quantum Leap podcast is edited by Albie, Christopher DeFilippis, and Juan Muro. The production assistant is Jesse Newman. The executive producer of the Quantum Leap podcast is Albert Burge. Juan Muro, Christopher DeFilippis, and Hayden McQueenie are the co-executive producers. Michael Bryan is the producer. The thoughts expressed on this podcast are those of the individual and do not necessarily represent or reflect those of the Quantum Leap podcast, its partners, or affiliates. The Quantum Leap universe and all it contains is the property of Belisarius Productions and Universal Television. The Quantum Leap podcast is not affiliated with Belisarius Productions or Universal Television, and no copyright infringement is intended. Please visit barrenspace.com for this and other amazing content. The Quantum Leap podcast is a Barren Space production.
Greetings, Dr. Beck.
Right, and it's a good luck. Well, I mean, you also had the good luck to appear with George Clooney and Shane Woodley and Beau Bridges in 2011. The movie was called The Descendants, and that was set in Hawaii. And I guess you just can't get out of those tropical paradises, huh?
Well, that's interesting that you bring that up because I was not in.
Right, and it's a
I
good
have
luck.
a
Well, I mean, you also had the good luck to appear with.
Are you
George
kidding
Clooney
me?
and Shane Woodley and Beau Bridges.
No,
I am the worst interviewer on the planet. The movie was called The Descendants. And that was set in Hawaii, and I guess you just can't get out of those tropical paradises.
SAG actor. Well, anytime anybody says my name's Tom McKee, it immediately shoots
up
to
as
my
your picture.
IMDb.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's that wasn't mine. I actually got all of his checks.
That's good.
For that movie, and I had to look him up. I go, hey, Tom McTeague. Yeah, you don't know me, but this is Tom McTeague, and I've got your checks. So
that's pretty funny. All right, I might not.
I'm
Allison.
Allison.
And
I'm Matt.
Full names? No. All right. If you
No.
no, you.
I'm Allison.
I might not.
I'm Allison.
And I've got your checks. So
that's pretty funny. All right, I might not.
I'm Allison.
And I'm Matt.
You guys want to give your full names?
No.
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 All right.
All right. I'll
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. It would sound better. Yeah.
I'm Allison Pregler. I'm Allison Pregler.
Tom wasn't in Runaway, but he was in the previous episode, A Little Miracle. He played Blake's sycophantic. How do you say that word? I write these things, but I can't say them. Sycophantic. Thank you.
Is it not sycophantic? It's sycophantic in British English, but
it could be sycophantic. I always hear like sycophant.
Okay.
So
it's going to be good bloopers.
If I steered you wrong, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go with the other American in the room. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. Men don't have feelings. Men shouldn't be expressing feelings. He can't put it into words.
Pardon me, I was just burping.
That's all right. I killed the conversation. I killed the conversation.
So I guess now we have to do to Quantum Deep. So let me go that.
Yeah, you know that's the name of some Quantum Leap porn, right?
Yes, I know, but that's
that's why we're laughing. Well,
right,
at least you didn't call it anal leap. The other
anal
one,
leap,
so.
yeah.
There's another. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
I've only been able to track down one of those.
Lucky.
Oh man, only one Quantum Leap porn, just not enough.
It's not enough.
Aye.
No, I was just going to say, I just realised I missed my my favourite note of the episode. Somehow I managed to miss it. No, I was just going to say, I just realised I missed my my favourite note of the episode. Somehow I managed to miss it, which is that they're driving down the road at whatever miles an hour, and Emma manages to recognise Billy's butt stuck out of the car. She recognises his butt immediately. She's never seen the car before.
Well, it's fate, you know? She recognized his ass. I mean...
Yeah.
No, that's a great ass.
I shouldn't say ass.
I mean, that's... There is something going on there.
Oh, that's beautiful. We'll find a way. We'll find some place to insert.
Anyway, sorry,
that.
I don't think you can.
It'll
cut that.
definitely, and no pun intended.
Well, insert Billy's butt somewhere.
It's gonna be a great blooper reel, but
that's William's butt.
God, you guys are lunatics.
That was fun.
Yeah, it always goes longer than you think, but in a good way. In this case, yeah. Yeah. So again, guys, thank you. Like I said, when we got on mic the first time, I felt something click. I knew that we were going to do a good job, and I think I was proven right today. You guys are just awesome. You guys are just great. So, all right. So let me stop my backup. I hope you guys are doing backups as well. Got to get a back of the backup. So. You guys are lunatics.
That was fun. That was fun.
There.
You pig!
Ow! What are you doing? Shut up back there.
I'm a kid.
You're a twerp!
Ow! I said shut up!
She called me monkey boy. She did. She called me
that's her
monkey
job.
boy.
Hey, you're 13. She's your big sister. That's her job.
13?
Let's see. Your name is Butchie Rickett, and you and your family just left your home in Pahokee, Florida. And when the fire were Butchie runs out on never see or hear from her, please don't let it happen to Emma and her family.
How come you decide when...
I'm the dad, of course. Butchie. Butchie. Butchie.
What's going on, Mom?
You wouldn't understand.
Come on, I'm 13.
Yeah, my little man.
Butchie. 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 Butchie.